Good evening, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Destiny with your host, Jamie Green. First, I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight for our conversation and want to remind you to like our YouTube channel and subscribe. There is some amazing content over there that will bless your life. As most of you know, I am uh, what I call a social advocate, and especially for mothers. That's where my heart is. And tonight I have with me a young lady who I've known forever, it seems like. Um, and she's also a mother who has experienced the loss of a child due to gun violence. And so tonight we're going to just talk a little bit about that because it's just so much going on. Every week, it seems like there is something that involves gun violence with our young people. And so we can no longer just sit back and complain. And, when it happens, everybody's all up in arms about it. But then a week or two passes and nothing is done or said or whatever. But we want to continue to, number one, advocate for our young people to find out why some of these things are happening and what we as adults can do to make things better. But as I said, most of you know I have an organization called A Mother's Cry. So a mother's cry is not about just her tears, but it's about her voice. And so tonight I welcome to the Let's Talk Destiny platform my friend Shanell Taylor.
Hello, everyone.
It's so good to have you. Okay, so Chanel, I just want to ask you a few questions, and then we're just going to talk. I try to keep it as simple and easy as possible. I prefer to say we're having conversations than interviews because I just want to have conversations. So first of all, I want you to talk about your experience as a mother who has lost a child to gun violence. How old was your son? When did this happen? And what was your mother's heart response when you first heard about it?
I lost my 17-year-old son at the time. He was 17 on August the 2nd of 2015. It was about 11 o'clock at night. I received several phone calls that something had taken place and that my son was possibly hurt. And in the beginning, the only hope that I really had was that someone had mistaken him for someone else because he had plans to go to Ocean City, and the plans with his friends to go to Ocean City had fell through. And so he ended up going with some other friends to under 21 party. And I was just hoping that it wasn't him and he wasn't there. Not that I wanted to have been anyone's child, but just that frantic phone call has definitely been a change, a deal breaker in my life. The phone call came through by several people stating that there was a shooting and that the shooting was into a crowd of kids and that my son was shot and that he was hurt. And so, upon trying to get there to the scene, they redirected me to go to the hospital. When I got to the hospital, they just kept telling me that he wasn't there, he wasn't there. So my hope that it wasn't him began to grow because they were saying that he wasn't there.
Yeah.
But it was him. Once they did give us the opportunity, me, his father, and my daughter and my other son, um, to go back and identify him, it was him. And from that second that I knew that it was my son, my life changed drastically. My life has not been the same. It'll be 8 years, August the 2nd of this year.
Wow.
And it's been a trying 8 years. I tell people they see the outside of me, they see the smile, they see, that I still appear on the outside the same, or I look like I'm okay on the outside, but on the inside, it's a pain that you'll never, ever, it never ends. So, um, that particular night, it just really felt like a dream to me. After dealing with, his funeral arrangements and all of that, it became a reality. Like I just had to live in this reality that I have really lost one of my children, and just wrongfully. Like, he was just an innocent bystander, just sitting there. His friends said he was just sitting there laughing and joking as he always done, and that once the shots rang out, they all just started running, and he fell down. So it just, I
Wow.
don't know, it just it's just tragic, and like a drastic change to your life. So I had all three of my children. I've had my children since I was 17, 19, and 21. So that's really all I've known, is being a mother
Yeah,
to them three. And to have one of them missing has really taken a toll on our family altogether, all the way around, because it just feels like
absolutely.
it's a piece missing.
Absolutely. And when we have children, I've said this and I've heard you heard other mothers say it as well. When you have children, it's like a piece of your heart outside of your body. And
Yes,
you just always staring at them and like, I can't believe this came from me, and you just whatever. And so then that's gone, that's taken
yes,
away, not by any choice of their own, but somebody else made a bad decision that took your baby away from you. And I cannot even begin to imagine the pain. Um, and like you said, the change that that had on your life, and still has to this day. Because even if you are not crying every day like you used to, I'm sure there are still days that you think about your baby and you cry. It still hurts. It can be a physical ache when we're grieving. I want to take a moment and say good evening to Miss Joyce Brown, who's speaking to me. Ms. Joyce is one of the most faithful supporters of the Let's Talk Destiny talk show. So I definitely want to say good evening to you. So, Shanell, one of the reasons I have been wanting to talk to you, as a mother, I've reached out to a couple of mothers that I know have lost children, not necessarily to gun violence, but just to share what they were going through, and most of them are not ready. Um, and so when I reached out to you, I said, well, maybe it's been a little while, maybe she can talk about it now, because when I first started A Mother's Cry, I thought I came up with this idea because Byron and Trey both played ball through the Salvation Army, and it seemed like every time I would go to the games, it would be mostly mothers there,
right.
more so than fathers. Then it would be like some of the little boys would come to my house and spend the night, and then they'd be there like 2 or 3 days, and
Wow.
I'm like, dude, where's your mom? Like,
Yeah.
does your mother know where you are? And some of them would say, oh, she don't care, she's not home, stuff like that. So it just over time, it dawned on me that until we learn how to be better people, better women, until we fix whatever is going on with us individually, it's going to impact us as mothers. And so that's when I started the Mother's Cry fellowship. And you know how it is around here, like just with everything else. When you first started, you get a big response. And then as time goes on, people lose interest or whatever the case may be. But I still maintain in my heart that there is nothing that compares to a mother's love. There is a primal cry that comes out of a mother that no other sound can compare to.
Right.
And so last week, or 4th of July, we had a mass shooting here in Salisbury. And a 14-year-old boy was killed as a result of that. And I think like 6 other young people were shot. And immediately my mind went to the mother. I don't even know the mother. I just was like, oh my God, like, can you imagine your baby's going into a party and then you get the message they've been shot? And immediately I thought of you, because that was the same circumstance. You thinking your son is going down to Ocean City hanging out with some friends, and he ended up, getting shot, and not just shot, but killed. So when you heard about the mass shooting on 4th of July, did it trigger some things in you? What was your response?
Wow, that's no, that's a question all in itself. I've had several emotions about it. I don't know his mother personally, and I didn't know him at all. I um, I just went back to that day that the phone call came to me, and only thing I could say is I've been where she is, and so many different emotions. I was upset one minute, the next minute I'm crying, the next minute my anxiety is all over the place. And I said, I really realized that this is going to be triggering for me for the rest of my life.
Yes.
Because even when you feel like you're healed, I can talk about Rock, but I do try to talk about him in life and not his death. I don't focus
Yeah.
so much on his death because I want to remember our times together, and that's what keeps me going.
Yeah.
But when you hear of young people who are losing their lives unnecessarily, not through sickness or not through um, something that is natural,
Yeah.
of natural causes, it does something to me. Like it pierces right through me, and the first thing comes to mind is the day and the day that I had to bury my son, or the night that I got that phone call, and all of
Mm.
it just rushes back to you.
Right.
And so I went to counseling uh, for 6 years. 6 years after from the time Rock passed up until COVID started, and I just used that's what I've been doing these last couple of weeks since the 4th of July with that shooting. I've been using some of the tools that I've
Right.
was
Right.
given in counseling, like writing down how I feel and realizing that this is what I'm gonna have to deal with, and that when it happens to somebody else, it feels like it happens to me all over again.
All over again. Yeah.
Yes, so um, I don't I don't really reach out to people that I really don't know because immediately you don't want to rush to someone who's going through a tragic situation, especially if you're not someone
Yeah.
who was in their everyday life. But I just immediately begin to pray for her. I began to
Yes.
pray for her, and I put a message on Facebook because I was really feeling it. Like you would have thought that it was my situation all over again. It
Oh
was
yeah.
so heavy. It was just so heavy, but it just brought back a lot of those emotions and those feelings. And every time it happens, it does that again and again and again. And I'm just like, it's no way that I can stop it myself personally, but people should really know that when they're making these decisions, it's life altering for everybody. Like one wrong
Exactly.
decision, whoever would have made the decision to shoot into that crowd on 4th of July, they don't realize that it just brought back a lot of the trauma, not just for me, but my
Right. Right.
daughter. My daughter has shut down. My son is feeling it. Like we all
Yeah.
just went
Yeah.
right back to our tragedy because it's so similar. Like
Yes.
it's unnecessary gun violence. Who's a child, someone had to bury a child and
Absolutely.
unnecessarily. So it triggers a lot in me, and I've been kind of staying busy to try to not really think about it. And then Saturday, I done a young lady's hair, and she was in the chair, and she knew him. He was her father, her children's father was his cousin, and he
Okay.
handed her the obituary from the
Oh
little
wow.
boy's funeral. And there I was again in
Yeah.
those emotions, and it was so connecting that the background of his obituary was blue, just like Rock's was.
Wow.
And there I go again, seeing a kid on an obituary. And
Yeah.
oh man, it just, I maintained because doing hair is my passion. So
Yeah.
I maintained what I was doing, but it was all on the inside.
Yeah.
I was staring on the inside, and nobody really could tell because unless I tell you how I'm feeling on the inside, you really don't know.
Yeah.
But I just think that people take it very lightly because if it doesn't happen to you, you don't know. But
Exactly.
when that young man was killed and they put it on the news and all that, it's just trauma for me.
Yeah.
So I pulled out my journal. I began to write. This is not going to break me. I have to keep going like I've been going. This is what Rock wants me to do. I just write down in my journal how I can get through these feelings and how I can filter through these feelings.
And I
So,
think it's important that you feel what you feel.
yes,
Too many of us are taught and trained, especially in the Black community, um, and just get over it, just pray and move on.
yeah,
And especially in those of us that were raised in the church or whatever, it's just like, well, just pray about it, you'll be all right. And that doesn't always work.
right. You can
So
pray about it, but those emotions and feelings is it's a human
exactly.
nature to
And
have
God gave
emotions.
us those feelings,
Yes,
so
he gave us
obviously He wants
emotions.
us to use them. So let's
Yeah,
talk about Rock for a minute. I was told that he was a rapper,
yes.
and I think Trey was talking to me about a project that he was talking about doing, or he just did, or something like that. So tell us a little bit about Rock. What was some of his favorite things to do?
Well, Rock was just that was the glue of everything, even his friendships, even his family dynamic as far as the home family,
Yeah,
even the family dynamics as far as our extended family. But Rock would always want everybody to get along, everybody to get together, everybody to just be happy, laugh, and just have a good time. So he was always the one that everybody went to for everything. He was a little brother, but he was the big little brother that
yeah,
his siblings could always go to him and he tell them, what to do and how to do it. But
yeah,
he was into rapping. He loved to rap. I think that was the way he expressed how he felt because he often laughed and made jokes so much that you wouldn't have known if something was bothering him.
yeah.
But in his rap music, he would say different feelings that he had or different thoughts that he had, and then I would
Okay,
listen to it and I'd be like, "Hey, why you doing that cussing?"
yeah,
And are you all right? Is everything all right? Because you
yeah,
said, and then he would say, Mom, it's just a rap. It's just a rap. But I'm like, no, like he never seems upset or he never seems like
yeah.
anything bothers him. So I felt like that's the way he got out his emotion is through his rap. He just was a baby, kid who just loved his mom and loved his family, and I don't know, like to for him to be absent is really a shock for us
Yeah,
because he would be the one when everybody was mad, he would crack a joke and then we'd all laugh and everybody be okay. So
yeah,
now we stay mad a little bit longer than we did when Rock was here because he's not here to break the ice.
yeah,
Everybody's like, no, no. Even though my two children are adults and they live where they live and they have their own lives, Rock was the one that made us like always come right together and just laugh. And so he just was a good kid. He had lots of friends. I mean, his funeral was so humongous. I was shocked. I was like, how did he know all these people? And
yeah,
he was only
yeah,
17. Like, but people that had encountered him just loved him because he just was just outgoing. And everybody said, that was you. That's your twin. He looked like you.
yeah. He
He was
definitely
friendly,
looked
just
like you.
like you. Yeah,
Yeah,
everybody said he was just friendly, just like you. So I just believe he was the one of my kids that had my personality. Myra and
yeah,
Quan are more introverted. They're not as outgoing.
yeah,
But if they talk to you, they talk to you. But
yeah,
Rock would talk to anybody, anywhere, and that's me. They say I go to stores and talk to people I don't know.
yeah.
But he just was just that kid, and even in school they did an honor, they honored him in school because he was a kid who hated school but loved to go to school just so he can get dressed and socialize. He was a social.
Socialized. Yeah,
Yeah, he went to school to socialize. When he didn't want to go to school, he'd say, "I'm gonna go ahead to school because we got assembly today, and I got to go in
yeah,
there with my boys so we can cut up." So he
yeah.
would only go to school because he wanted to socialize.
That's
And
funny.
so he was a senior in high school, well, going to be a senior in high school when school returned. And he
Yeah.
said, Mom, I'm gonna get this diploma for you. I said, you don't gotta get it for me. I already got mine. But he would always just like make jokes and so his personality was his biggest thing for me because for a young person to have so much personality, it was amazing. It was
Yeah.
amazing, and so many people knew him and knew his personality.
Yeah.
So
I heard great things about him.
yeah,
So
he's
you
awesome.
should be very proud.
Yes, that boy. Sometimes I'll be somewhere. Even now, it's been almost 8 years. August the 2nd will be 8 years, and even now I go somewhere and somebody say, "Are you Rock's mom?
Hmm.
Are you Rock's mom?" That was my friend, and I be
Oh,
so his absence is not just phased away. Like people are
yeah.
still affected by it. And then when the shooting happened on 4th of July, I seen a couple of his friends on Facebook, and they were putting up "Rest in peace, Rock, because we miss you out here."
Oh,
Like
wow.
so I knew it. I knew it affected more than just me and Myra and Quan. I knew it affected his friends and people who knew him as well, because just they were and they still like put in messages and or either just put on their page and say, "We miss you out here, Rock." Like, so I knew it was triggering for them as well, because they're adults now, and now here it is, another child has gotten killed, and then you see them starting to express their
Yeah.
feelings, on social media. So I was just like, wow, I was just like, God, just help us all, because
Yeah.
one thing happened, it just triggers like dominoes. It's
Absolutely. Absolutely. Chanel, I
so,
wanted to mention to you, I think your phone is falling, it's moving around.
okay.
Yeah. I just wonder.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just, I think what you said have touched me in so many places. But one of the things that you said is that when we have these incidents happen, it doesn't just affect that one person, the person that got shot or the person that was murdered. There's a whole community of people that are affected. And I wish these young people would think about these things before they do it. Like whatever
Yes.
beef you might have with whoever you have a beef with, we've got to find better ways to sit down and talk these things out. These just you know resorting to violence is just it's exhausting because
It's
it's like
very
every week you read about it, you see it, but I mean to hear about a mass shooting in Salisbury, Maryland,
right.
and it's on CNN. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, whew.
I
So
mean,
I
days after another big city has
yeah,
a mass shooting. Like I think Baltimore had one, and
Baltimore, yeah,
Philly or somewhere else they had one, and I'm just like, here we are in small town Salisbury, and we are really doing the most. I'm
doing
just
the
like,
most.
help God, help God. But I made a statement the other day, and then I thought about my statement after I made it, and I said, well, maybe that's what it is. I said, but these kids play video games, GTE or whatever the stuff is, and there's a lot of shooting in it. I
Yeah,
said, do you think these young people think that because on GTE you get another life, you get more lives? Do they feel like that that's real life, that you would get more lives? Because they don't realize that gone is gone. And
gone
for
is
eight
gone.
years, every 8 years, every day I have suffered the fact that Rock is gone.
It's gone.
So
And
one wrong move. It's not a video game. It's not a
that's
video game. It's not whatever you see on TV. It's not social media. It's real
exactly.
life. Like,
It's
this is
real
real
life.
life stuff. I'm
Wow.
just like, help.
And Miss Joyce says every day for her she experiences that. She lives in the suburbs of Chicago, and it's
Mm,
horrible for families because there is no respite or no respite. Like you
respite.
can't.
Well,
It doesn't go away. Like
yeah,
it's not like a video game or one of these videos that the rappers make
right.
where everybody's pow 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 shooting everybody, or the television shows where people are shooting up people, and then they get up after the director says cut, and it's they go
Everybody can
home.
stand back up.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not the same thing, and people's lives are being destroyed because people, these young people, are making bad decisions. So, Shanell, what do you think the main issue is in our communities, and what is one thing that you think might be a solution?
I, my thing is, I think if we could do away with social media, even though I know that won't happen, then I think people would get back to the reality of real life, because we live in, like, I feel like we're living in a world where everything is a persona of what
Yeah,
happens on social media, or what
I
happens on
got you.
TV, or what happens in a video game. But what happened to really going outside and riding bicycles with your friends, or playing basketball on the side of the road with a basketball court? Or so I mean, I know it's gonna be tough to go back to things that were, now that they've discovered new things to
Yeah,
do. But I just feel like that we have to, as parents and as community leaders, and people that have any type of impact on children, to let them know that just getting to know somebody and caring about others is
yeah,
what it's going to take in order for this stuff to stop happening. Because I'm not going to take someone's life just because I'm mad with them.
yeah,
you know I might be angry, but I try hard to handle my emotion.
yeah,
And that's what's not being taught to the young people of the day, is how to really tap into handling their emotion
yeah,
without just a impulse of getting a gun and doing a random rapid act.
yeah,
Like, we just gotta help them think through. And I had that conversation with my grandson on Sunday. I told him, I said, what you say to people will impact them, will
yeah,
hurt them. I said, and then sometimes you say something and you can't unsay it. He's only 6, but I explained that to him. And I said, just like if you hurt somebody with a gun, you can't take it back. So
that's
you
right.
have to monitor what you say that hurts people, because then you'll monitor what you do that hurts people. And
Absolutely.
if we instill that in kids, and start really holding them accountable for the things that they do and the things that they say that are hurtful from a young age,
Yeah,
and then they won't grow up feeling like just do whatever. We need to get back to the consciously thinking, oh no, that's not right to say.
yeah,
Oh, that's not right to do. Right now I just feel like everybody's just doing whatever, but that's because that's what's being shown
yeah.
to them, through different social media and different
Mediums,
things.
yeah. And
But
it's
what
like we, as our young people, don't understand, or they don't value life.
Not
Um,
at all.
like when we were younger, just certain things you would never even think about doing. Like if somebody even made you mad, you might swing on them.
Yeah,
But
we might fight. Like, we
yeah,
might fight,
but then, after you finish swinging, we get up and we go home. And
and we play tomorrow. We play again tomorrow. Like, we
exactly,
didn't stay mad and hate each other for forever. We fight. We come back tomorrow and say, "Man, we all right,"
that's
or
right.
"We all right. We cool now."
Yeah.
But
And
they
if you
just keep
had
doing
Essie
anger
Green for a mom, she would make you go pick the person up and bring them to church.
and
I
hug them.
remember I got in a fight with a girl in the 6th grade because I was bullied a lot when I was in school. And this girl and some other girls kept picking on and picking. We got fighting. And mom, Essie Green,
Yes,
she
ma'am.
takes me to the girl's house, and she sits down and talks to the girl's mom, and I'm sitting there like, oh my God, I don't believe this is happening to me. And then they ended up, mom said, okay, well, I'll pick her up Sunday.
Sunday.
And the girl started the girl started coming to the church. I was like, how embarrassing is this? But she was teaching us, there's a better way to handle disagreements. And you
Forgiveness.
have to value her, she has to value you. And since y'all can't seem to get that together, I'm gonna take you to church so you can be reminded. I was like, oh, have mercy, this was so embarrassing.
Ah. Lord forbid we have tried to get these kids to go to church, but to take
Mm-mm.
to somebody that they mad with ain't happening.
Mm.
That's it.
Not happening. Not at all.
Goodness.
Um, Cece Purnell says that she thinks it starts at home. I watched two young ladies arguing and cussing with the kids in the stroller. They think it's the right thing to do.
Right.
I think in many cases that is accurate because I too have seen parents cursing around the kids or at the kids,
Right.
threatening to do bodily harm to them and stuff like that. So when they have conflicts with their peers, they think that's what they're supposed to do.
That's their
You know,
go-to.
they don't see you talking it out or trying to explain anything. You just go straight to the violence. So that's what they think is supposed to be done. I just feel I don't know. I have so many conflicting emotions about this because as a mom, I get concerned every time my children, even though my sons are adults now, but children or grandchildren, when they walk out the door,
Mm,
you don't know if they're coming home.
yeah.
And that's a horrible thing. Every time something like this happens, I go back to that. I remember when what was his name? Michael Brown was killed in Ferguson.
Yes.
And for the longest time, whenever my son would say he was going out somewhere, I would just be anxious. I have all kinds of levels of anxiety, afraid he was going to be racially profiled, afraid a cop was going to shoot him, just so many things. And as moms, we carry that. I don't care how old your children are,
Mm,
you feel like a responsibility to protect them.
right.
And when something bad happens to them, you have a period of, maybe I should have done something different. Did you experience that with Rock?
I didn't. I actually, the only thing I said was if I had any inkling, I would have locked him in my bedroom and laid in the bed with him and laughed and talked all night long so he
Yeah,
wouldn't go anywhere. But as a mother, Rakim was very structured. He was very structured. So at 17, he was on his way to 18, and about 6 or 7 months from that time,
wow,
I'm like, I have to give him a little leeway because he's about to be adult age.
yeah,
So he would have to tell me, Mom, I'm going out. I'm gonna stay at such and such house, or
yeah,
I would know what the plan is. And so I didn't experience any regret because I feel like as a mother, they were very. I was. They said I was mean. I don't think that I was mean. I was just very caring. I just my kids were my world,
that's
and
right.
they still are. And now my grandkids are, and
Yeah,
people like my daughter tells me all the time, "You're so over the top." That's how you were with us, just over the top. I said, "Well, you turned out all right, so let my grandkids have this phone. Let my kids
okay.
have their over the top grandmother." But I didn't. Yeah, I didn't experience any regret as far as my parenting skills because Rakim was on the right track as a young man as to how he carried himself. Um, just just knowing what I know now, I might would have just held him, locked him away if I
Yeah,
could have. But now, soon as I heard about that shooting, um, I text Raekwon and I said, "Hey son, where are you? Are you safe?" And as soon as something happens, the first thing I do is scramble to my phone
yeah,
and contact Raekwon. He's 27 years old, and I'm still calling him like he's this teenage kid, but
yeah, yeah.
he understands and he explains to me, "Mom, I'm safe." He lets me know where he is. He lets me know he's very introverted. He stays to himself. He's not an outgoing person at all, like going out to parties or any of that. So, but still, it's like I get a panic on the inside that I need to check on him because something's going on. Like,
Yeah.
and just once you've experienced that trauma, but they were taught like the love one another, and just certain things were instilled in them, so I just never would have to have regret about my parenting as far as my kids, because they were disciplined. I was not mean. As they would say, I was not mean, but they were disciplined, and they knew that they were going to be held accountable for their actions. And
And
that's
that's
what.
one of the things that really
Yes.
disturbs me when something bad happens. People always want to start saying it's the parents. The parents should have done this, the parents should have did that. I remember when Byron, who you know very well, when he first got arrested and sent away this last time, I lost track of how many people literally had the nerve to say to me, "Don't you feel like a failure as a mom?" And I mean people in the church that my parents
Oh,
pastored. And I said, "No, I don't," because he's an adult
he makes his own
and
decision.
he made his own decisions. And
Right.
just like you and I, we've all made decisions that our parents would not be proud of, but we
What?
have to suffer the consequences of those decisions. But it still kind of disturbs me even right now when I hear people automatically go to, if their parents were doing this, if their parents, because there's just some things that you can teach your children, you can train your children in certain ways, but the street, their friends have a whole different type of um, effect on them. Like they know what you said at home, but once
But
they
that,
walk out their door, they're hanging out with their buddies. It's a whole different thing. And
yeah.
so I felt bad for a long time, not because I knew that I felt like it was my fault that he was in prison, but I thought back over the years of our relationship and his father dying and just a whole lot of things that I know it affected him to become the person that he had become. So I felt bad about those things, but like you, I didn't have any regret about my raising him or teaching him or whatever, because again, he made his own choices.
Sure. Right.
And so I also wanted to ask you for your opinion about what we need to do as a community. Now, I've seen notes of people, not notes, I've seen pictures on Facebook of people having different events since this happened, walks and prayers and something. I don't know what, something I saw. I don't know what they were doing, but um, I didn't hear anything about it until after it was
I,
over with, and then I see the stuff being talked about on social media.
and on the
So,
news, I seen it on the news actually.
right. So I'm saying, how can we as a community come together when all of us don't even know what's going on? There are those of us who are community activists, social activists. We're leaders in the community. We love children. We love our youth, whatever. But we need to centralize these efforts. Like everybody needs to know what's going on so we can all be involved. I
Right.
should not find out the day after on Facebook, because everybody's not on Facebook
Right.
that wants to be involved. So I suggest that somebody puts together some kind of a committee, and then get email addresses and phone numbers of people that want to be involved, and keep everybody abreast as to what we're doing. What do you recommend that we as a community can do so that we can unite and let our children know that we're here for them?
I think first of all we have to connect as people. To me, I feel like the community isn't connected. We have to connect for more than just insight on a tragic event. Like they have the folk festival, or they have um, the Pride Festival or the parade. We have to come together as a community, not just
Yeah.
for negativity, not for things that are happening, but just so that we know that we can love and trust one another.
Right,
Because
right,
that is one of my biggest issues. Because the moment someone is upset with you, they will use your tragedy to hurt you. So how can I feel like I can trust
right.
or connect with people who, if there's no trust and no connection when it comes to a tragic situation, that's not enough to connect you. You have
Yeah.
to be connected
Before the tragedy.
before, after, and during. Like you have to just maintain. So basically, I just feel like our community needs some connection. So an idea that I would come up with is the way the um the flyers that they put in the mail to let you know a new restaurant is opening, or they put it in your mailbox, or stick it on your windshield, or
Yeah.
any
Or on your door.
on your door,
Yeah.
or advertising, with flyers on a pole. Do you advertise for a yard sale on a pole?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just think that those type of things are what draw people near. So if you want to have a community event, it shouldn't just happen when something bad is happening. I think that it should be something that today we're going to focus on. This Saturday we're going to focus on 2 to 10,
Yeah.
and we're going to bring out 2 to 10 year olds, and we're going to face paint, and we're going to do that not because
Yeah.
something bad has happened, but because we want our kids to trust us, and we
Yes.
want our parents to connect and have trust amongst each other.
I
Because
love
we
that.
have so much we have so much hatred that when a situation occurs, you got parents arguing. I've
That's
seen
right.
parents arguing. This kid is 14 years old and has lost his life,
Yeah.
and these grown people are on social media arguing. I don't get that, because that's where we have more hatred than we have love, and there we have more distrust than we have trust, and we have no connection. The connection is broken. So we have to connect as a
Absolutely.
community, as people. I'm not big on color. I feel like connection should be with people, because you don't know
Yeah.
who could make a difference in your life.
That's
One
true.
of Rock's most favorite people was one of his one-on-ones he had for his IEP in school. And when I tell you she impacted his life, she really impacted his life, because she showed him that she cared.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she was a Caucasian lady, and when I tell you she was Rakim, love for Rakim, that I was halfway like, this lady thinks she his mom, like, but she really
Yes.
loved him, and that connection and that love that she showed him, it meant a lot to him, and it meant a lot to me. So this is what we have to connect as people
We
first,
have to. We
because
have
if
to.
we don't connect as people, we can't gather together to do nothing. Like
Absolutely.
you ain't gathering together to rally together for positivity when you as people are arguing and fussing, and we have a 14-year-old child that has to be laid to rest. There's
Yes.
no argument here. There's nothing that you could possibly be upset about other than the fact that there's a child who wrongfully lost his life. And I'm not big on pointing fingers. Like, you can sit on social media and play the blame game all day,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, this is what we're dealing with. I had to bury my 17-year-old son. She's buried her 14-year-old son. There's been other teenage children or young adults who have lost their life. So we need to be able to look at the bigger picture,
Yeah.
and we need to be able to connect as a community. I don't mind getting some postcards, writing on them, on this particular date we're going to gather together, and go put them in some mailbox, or stick them
Yeah.
in some windshields, or they
Yeah.
do it when they want you to come to a party.
That's
So
correct.
this is a party that needs to be had. So I just feel like there's other ways of connecting. You can't always connect through social media, because everybody's not into that.
That's
Or
right.
if
That's
they're
right.
anything like me, I'm always working. So when I get
Yeah.
on social media, it's the middle of the night. So I find out about it
Yeah.
after it's already taken place.
It's
So,
already taking place. Yeah.
but
I love that. I love
there's
that because it does boil down to community, unity, knowing who we are, because if we don't know who we are, we're not teaching our children who they are, so they don't have understanding of the value of who they are and what they bring to the world. And they just, so that's why it's so easy for them to take a life, because they don't see the value in that life. But it's like you said, we have got to come together. And I'm going to say this and then I'm going to let you go, because I absolutely understand what you're saying about the adults arguing while this mother is struggling with having to bury her child. Because I've seen people who fussing about, whose fault it is and who shouldn't have done this and who shouldn't have done that. In the meantime, this woman has lost her child.
Right.
And your opinion about who shouldn't have had the party, who shouldn't have did that, that's just ridiculous. So
Yeah.
we have got to come together and unite. I absolutely love that. I love that. Is
Yeah.
there anything
We have to
else you want
start.
to share with us before we leave?
Just for the parents who have experienced loss, and when I say parents, um, I want to involve. I think we as mothers we disconnect with everybody, as because I don't know about how other people feel, but I felt like my kids were my kids.
Yeah,
And I may have had those feelings because two of my children's fathers were deceased and I raised them by myself.
yeah,
So, but I just think that as people all the way around, whether you have children or whether you don't, that we just have to learn to love one another and just show our children what love is more so than hatred.
yeah,
Because I feel bad when my kids see me angry. I feel bad when my kids, see me do things and I'm just like, oh my God, how can I take that back? So,
yeah,
just we just had to be mindful of our kids because they're growing up in a more crazy world than what we were.
absolutely.
I went outside and rode bicycles. These kids, they're not safe to go outside, So just that we love on our children. I've heard several parents say, "Oh, these kids get on my nerves," and I'd be like, "Don't say that. Like, don't say that. I do anything for Rock to get on my nerves right now.
Yeah,
He'd be 25 years old and he could get right on my nerves right now. I would do
wow,
anything for it. So just that parents just love their kids and don't take their children's lives and their relationship for granted because just speaking from somebody who had to get cut off out of nowhere, like nothing is promised to us, nothing. So I just, if you have children or, if you have children that are close to you, even if they're not your children, just love on them. Just love on them. Because I do
absolutely.
anything today to love on my boy. But now
Wow,
I treat my grandkids that way. Like my grandkids, I hug them, I kiss them, I hug them, I kiss them, and I tell them I love them all the time. And there's one thing, if we ever have to part, they know that I love them. They know that I love them, and my kids knew the same thing. So that's that's really it for me. Just we gotta just love on these children and show them more love than hatred because hatred is really taking over. It's taking over.
absolutely. Well, again, I absolutely thank you so much for taking this time to share with us tonight. Um, Ms. Joyce Brown, thank you so much again for joining us. And uh, we're definitely staying on the battlefield. We have our moments when we are overwhelmed and stressed, whatever, because we're human,
Right.
but our faith sustains us. And even in those moments when we like, I just can't do anything else, we know that God's got us. And also, Cece mentioned that her mom went into a deep depression after Robbie was killed.
Yes.
And so she had to turn into the parent to kind of help her mother get back on track. And so there is nothing, and I say this all the time, and I have nothing against fathers. I love fathers. I'm not from the mother and the father school. When I was younger, I used to say that because that's how I felt.
Right.
But as I got older, I realized I can't be somebody's father.
Yeah. I don't know how.
I can't be the best mother I can be, but I was not created to be anybody's father. And I know there's still people that disagree with me, but this is my show, so
Right. We can
um,
agree to disagree. Like, yeah,
that's right.
that's a part of connect. That's a part of connection. You gotta be
That's
able
right. That's right.
to
But
disagree.
I do, I just feel for you. Like I've been wanting to reach out to you for a long time, but I just didn't know if you were ready. You know what I mean? Like some people just, there's no time limit on grief. There is no
No.
road map. There is no manual for how you do it. Everybody's different. And so, but I just wanted to reach out to you and let you know that I love you,
Oh, I love
um,
you too.
here for you in any way I can be here for you. And I appreciate you coming to the platform tonight to share your story and to share your ideas for how we can do better as a community.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
All right. You're
And I will
welcome.
talk to you soon.
All right. Love you.
I love you.
All
All right.
righty.
All right. Bye bye.